You won't believe what happened next. After years of keeping quiet about something incredibly personal, Ricky Gervais finally said the one thing everyone's always wondered. Why, after all these years, has he never married his partner? The answer? Well, it's classic Ricky. Totally honest, a little rebellious, and, as always, deeply relatable. So, grab a cuppa, get comfy, and let's dive into what really makes Ricky tick, from his unconventional love life to his wild rise to fame, and the moment he left Hollywood absolutely gobsmacked. Let's rewind to the very beginning. Picture this. Reading, Berkshire, 1961. Little Ricky's born into a working-class family, the youngest of four, growing up in a house where laughter was currency, because money sure wasn't. His dad, a French-Canadian laborer, and his mum, a stay-at-home legend, did what they could, but it was always a bit of a struggle. Yet, what the Gervais family lacked in pounds, they made up for in warmth, quick wit, and big questions. And Ricky? From an early age, he was never one to accept just because as an answer. Like the time he asked his mum why God lets bad things happen to kids. Her answer was, don't question it, but that wasn't enough for him. That's the moment he says he stopped believing in fairy tales. Logic, reason, and facts became his new religion. That stubborn, questioning attitude? It would eventually shape the comedy that made him a global icon. But before he was making millions laugh, Ricky tried his hand at something totally different. Yep, pop stardom. No joke. Back in uni, he teamed up with his mate Bill and formed a band called Siona Dancing. They even landed a record deal and dropped a couple of tracks. One of them, More to Lose, turned out to be a smash hit, just not in the UK. It blew up in the Philippines, but back home? Nothing. Ricky later joked he probably wasn't destined to be the next George Michael, and honestly, the world's better for it. When the music thing fizzled out, Ricky switched gears and jumped into radio, landing a gig at a scrappy London station called XFM. And that's where fate intervened. Enter a lanky intern named Stephen Merchant. The two clicked instantly, and before you know it, they were dreaming up a show so awkward, so painfully real, it was like nothing anyone had seen before. That show? The Office. At first, nobody wanted it. It was too dry, too weird, too much. But then it hit the BBC in 2001, and the whole country suddenly saw the world of work. Well, differently. Ricky, as David Brent, gave us one of TV's most cringeworthy, unforgettable bosses. That blend of comedy and heartbreak? Totally Ricky's style. And when The Office crossed the pond and exploded in America, his life changed overnight. But Ricky didn't stop there. He kept creating, always pushing, always mixing up the formula. Extras showed us the struggles of a wannabe actor in a world full of egos. Then Derek arrived, a bittersweet look at life in a care home that split the critics but showed Ricky's heart in a way no one expected. And then there was Afterlife, the raw, darkly funny Netflix hit about grief, love, and clawing your way out of despair. If you've watched it, you know, it's comedy but it's also therapy. Now here's the thing about Ricky, he's got absolutely zero filter. Seriously. He'll say what everyone else is thinking, even when it makes the room squirm. That's why his stand-up and interviews are always headline material. He doesn't believe in tiptoeing around sensitive topics. Offense, he says, isn't the same as harm. Just because something stings doesn't mean it's dangerous. To him, protecting free speech is non-negotiable, even if it means ruffling feathers. And let's be real, he's ruffled more than a few. Religion, celebrity egos, death. Nothing is off limits. He's been called brave, cruel, and everything in between. But Ricky? He doesn't back down. He honestly believes comedy should tackle the tough stuff, the awkward stuff, the stuff people are scared to talk about. And that's why his comedy hits so hard. Nothing sums up Ricky's say what you mean style better than the night he hosted the Golden Globes in 2020. Fifth time on the mic, and by his own admission, the last. The moment he walked on stage, you could feel the tension. Was he going to go easy? No, not a chance. Instead, he tore through the Hollywood elite, called out hypocrisy, joked about Jeffrey Epstein, roasted big tech giants, and pretty much told every A-lister in the room to sit down and stop pretending to be heroes. He even told them, if you win, don't make it political. Just say thanks and get off. The reaction? Complete chaos. Some laughed, some cringed, and some looked ready to walk out. The internet naturally exploded. Half the world cheered, half the world wanted his head. But love him or hate him, nobody could deny. Ricky Gervais had said what everyone else was too scared to say. That speech still gets replayed for a reason. Of course, a guy like Ricky never really leaves controversy behind. Especially not with Twitter at his fingertips. He uses social media the same way he does stand-up. Unfiltered, sharp, and always a little bit cheeky. He's clashed with activists over gender and trans rights. Some say he crosses a line, but he insists he's not mocking people, he's poking fun at ideas. He's been a champion for animals too, donating piles of money to shelters and always banging on about animal rights, even if it means clashing with other activists who think he doesn't say it the right way. And of course he's been an outspoken critic of cancel culture. If being cancelled means sticking up for what he believes in, he'll take that badge with pride. But here's the twist. For all the headlines, for all the sharp one-liners, the Ricky you see in public isn't the whole story. People close to him say he's loyal, generous, and surprisingly soft when the cameras are off. Quietly giving to charities, looking out for his friends, and, above all, fiercely protective of the people and pets he loves. If you've ever seen him gush over his cat, you know he's a softie at heart. And speaking of love, there's one person who stood by him since the beginning, Jane Fallon. She's not just the woman beside him, she's a total powerhouse. Before she was penning bestsellers, she was shaping some of the UK's biggest TV shows. EastEnders, This Life, Teachers, you name it, she's had a hand in it. But it's her novels, full of sharp wit and twisty relationship drama, that have really put her on the map. She's built her own career, her own following, and she's done it all while staying out of the limelight. Ricky and Jane's story goes way back, to the early 80s at uni when he was studying philosophy and she was doing history. They clicked in 1982 and never looked back. Over 40 years together, think about that. And yet, through all that time they've dodged every cliché. No public drama. No endless magazine interviews. And this is the bit that gets people talking. No marriage. Not once. Not ever. What? Simple really? For them, marriage just doesn't mean anything special. Ricky's always said, we don't need a certificate for our love. To him, love isn't about paperwork or ceremonies. It's about trust, respect, and the choice to wake up every morning and choose each other all over again. Jane feels exactly the same. Neither of them has ever wanted kids either. They talked it through early on and both agreed, that's just not their path. Instead, they've poured their energy into each other, their work, and, of course, their cat. Now, that's not to say everyone gets it. Plenty of people, especially traditionalists, have questioned their choices. Why not get married? Why not make it official? But Ricky and Jane have always shrugged it off. They don't owe anyone an explanation and they're not trying to make a point. They just live their lives the way that works for them. No fuss, no fanfare. Their home life is blissfully normal, by the way. No fancy parties, no red carpet drama. Just the two of them hanging out in their cozy London flat, going for walks, binge-watching TV, and sharing their lives with their furry companion. And even though they aren't official, it's clear to anyone who sees them, they're rock solid. In fact, Jane said more than once that she loves having a partner who makes her laugh every single day. Ricky, on his end, calls Jane the love of his life. They've got a rhythm, a connection, and a kind of independence that most couples could only dream of. What's really fascinating is that their story reflects something much bigger happening in the world right now. More and more people are realizing you don't have to follow the traditional script, marriage, kids, white picket fence, to find happiness. Ricky and Jane were way ahead of the curve on that one. They found their own version of a happy ending, and it's lasted longer than most celebrity marriages ever do. So, why did Ricky finally open up about all this? Maybe it's because he knows people are curious, or maybe he just felt it was time to set the record straight. Either way, his message is crystal clear. You don't need anyone else's approval to live a good life. You don't need a piece of paper to prove you love someone. You don't have to do things just because that's how it's done. Do what works for you and don't apologize for it. If you stuck around this long, cheers to you. Maybe you found a bit of yourself in Ricky's story, or maybe you just enjoyed the wild ride. Either way, don't forget to hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts. Seriously, are you team marriage or team who cares? And hit subscribe for more honest, thought-provoking stories just like this one. Because at the end of the day, life's too short for anything less than the truth.